So these are my pepper plants. I sowed them or germinated them all on January 1st. Technically it was like 11:45 at night on December 31st, but we'll call it midnight pretty much January 1st. And so I've got red Savina, and I only got one of the three to sprout on that one. I've got the Jawala finger peppers, and this one was my first one to sprout right here, and it's one of the largest ones. All three germinated. This last one just recently germinated about a week ago, so kind of odd there. Um, then we got the Fresno peppers. Again, we had this one germinate first, and that one came about a week later. I've got this stupid couple of fruit flies in here I've got to get rid of. They're becoming a problem for me. I'll be spraying some peroxide in there, and we're putting some fly papers up. But for now, I'm just going to keep showing you my peppers. So I've got some chocolate habaneros. All three germinated. This one germinated actually was one of my first ones to germinate, and these came later. But that one just came up like 5 days ago. So we're sitting here on almost January 18th, so about 18 days, and so I guess that one took a little while. And then if I pull it forward here, we got the Tasmanian Habaneros. There's three of those. The New Mexico Big Jim Peppers. Those are doing really well. This third one on the right just recently sprouted about a week ago, and so it's behind. Those are doing pretty good. It's a little odd. I've never seen the pepper plants have the leaves kind of twist like that. And actually, if you were to zoom in on some of these other ones, you'll notice that, see if I can get you a good picture of it here. There you go. I got some leaf the leaves are kind of drying up a little bit. I mean, they're green, but they're a little bit dry on a few of the pepper plants. And I think that's from, maybe too much fertilizer. I've been cutting back and just adding water now. But then I also have some Scotch Bonnets. Two of those came through. One came late again. It seems to be a pretty much a trend that you get the one that sprouts and then one that comes later, and then sometimes a third one that comes later. I planted 3 purple jalapenos as well. I gave up on them just yesterday. None of them sprouted, so I put 3 more seeds in there, changed the soil out. I'm keeping it a little more wet than the other ones. These are actually wet underneath this topsoil, but with these damn gnats, I've decided to keep a pretty dry top, water from the bottom. I put a little water in here, and then they just suck it up. But I try to keep the tops dry now because it seems to keep the fruit flies down. And I've got a couple of problems. I've got a few fruit flies that come up here, and then I've got some of those fungus gnats, and I've kept them under control. You saw those 5 when I was filming originally in the beginning, because this is upstairs in my house, and the heater I run it a little hotter up here, and so whenever the heater kicks on and there's a little circulation, it kind of annoys them, and then they fly around a little bit. There's like about 5 or 6 of them right now. I probably kill 3 or 4 every single time I come up and take a look at them. I've also got some garlic here. I took some cloves and buried them. I like to cook with garlic, so I'm going to be growing these. These have actually only been in there for 7 days. They were whole cloves. They weren't started at all. I broke them up, took the paper lining or the paper cover off them, and buried the fat end down, and they had no sprouts at all, and they sprouted like in 3 days. And so, this one here, the small little one, is just starting to come up. But this is 8 days, and they sprouted in 3 to 4 days, and so this is a lot of growth. They're growing quick, and it smells great. I love the smell of garlic. I tried a little experiment. It's not doing too well, but I took some beefsteak tomatoes that we ate, and I ended up giving a shot of saving the seeds out of a store-bought beefsteak tomato. I know they're hybrids. You don't get a good germination rate. I put about 20 seeds in here, as you can see, I had one sprout on this right corner, and the seed shell was stuck on it, so it never developed leaves, and so that one's probably a goner. But then these two right here are have sprouted, but they've curled a little bit at the ends, and I know there's some green moss in here, but from what I read, that doesn't really bug the plants too much. And again, this was just an experiment, so I'm not too concerned about them. But yeah, I planted them 1/7. It's been 11 days, and typically by now you should have gotten most of your tomato seeds sprouted. And the fact that only 3 out of 22 sprouted just goes to show you should probably just buy regular tomato seeds and plant them yourself. I have some cherry tomatoes I'm going to try next. So what I'm probably going to do is just section off this section right here, turn the soil, put some new fresh potting soil on there, seed starter mix, and then I'll probably put a little hydrogen peroxide so that I can get rid of some of that algae. I know it, like I said, it doesn't really affect the plants, but as long as it stays moist, it could actually rot the roots and it could rot the stem, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, just an experiment. I don't really care too much about those. And then I've got a couple of bell peppers I've just planted here. Nothing sprouted. It's only been a couple of days. I've got a couple of little orange tangerine trees. Now these things I planted about 4 months ago, and they were doing good, and then all of a sudden they were doing really bad. And I found out that the soil that I had it outside for a few months when I first planted, when it was still warm. And when I noticed they were dying, I turned the soil and changed the soil, and there was actually snails, little small round, half the size of a dime snails living in the dirt, and they were just feeding on them. And so I'm trying to get them to come back to life. Same thing happened to, let me see if I can get this, my Serrano pepper. This thing lost all its leaves. It was on the verge of death. I put it in new soil. I cut all the dead leaves off it. I left one, this yellower one on top, just so that it would stay alive. But, so it could photosynthesize anything. And you know what? Fertilized the soil, changed it out. And yeah, all these, 5 leaves? They just came in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's ready to rock and roll. And then back here, I've got a couple of avocado plants I've started about 5 days ago. Nothing going on with them yet, but yeah, so that's my plants, and my setup is pretty basic. If you zoom out here, you can see I've got a standard racking system. I can actually adjust these so I can move it up and down as my plants grow. I've got games right now holding up the plants. I didn't want to move the shelves 100 times, so I've been peeling games away as the plants have grown. I'm probably a little bit too far. I'm about 4 inches from the lights, 5 inches from the lights. So I probably could have left the last game in there. Maybe it was Candyland or something, but I pulled it out, and I could have left it in there. But anyway, as I get more and more plants, I'm going to probably add more lights to this top rack and lower this down to the top of these lights. And so then I have another rack here, and I'll have this rack here, and then I've got the bottom for my storage. That's the seed starting potting mix from Miracle Grow. And, I really like this Osmocote fertilizer. I also use a little bit of Epsom salt. So when I first start off, I take the potting mix, the Osmocote, and the Epsom salt, and I use a little bit of coffee grinds, and I mix it up into a mix back here. And that's pretty much my soil. And, I use the cup methods, and I have extra things I bought from my yard. I keep all the planting cups so that I can reuse them as my seeds get bigger. If it's an emergency situation, I've got a really high halogen bulb here to really focus some heat and some extra lumens on a plant to getting it back to life. I've got some Vaseline here because I was told if you put it on yellow paper, it attracts fruit flies and they'll stick to it, but I haven't had any luck with that. And then I even got a apple cider bowl here so that the fruit flies can get trapped and drown in there. It's not working. I have found that red wine works the best, Probably going to take that away and place it with red wine, get some of these flies caught. Problem with doing that is then it brings any fruit flies from inside the house up here closer to the plants. But I got to do something because I noticed there's a few more flies today than I've been noticing. So, and then I've got hydrogen peroxide, which is good for algae and other organic bacteria that is living inside the soil. If you mix it, it's 3%. If you mix it, I like to mix it about 1.5% and lightly water it. And I won't do it on my seedlings right now. I'd rather deal with the algae. They're just too frail. Their roots aren't strong enough. But I did use it on the older plants here. They're a little stronger root system. It seems to be working pretty good. So that's my update. About almost 18 days into all these peppers, and I plan on giving another update in about another week. Thanks a lot.